Milham Park, a beautiful and historic 49-acre space in southwest Kalamazoo. Portage Creek runs through the park, where a network of bridges, playgrounds, and natural paths wind beneath hundreds of mature trees. In 2021, a decades-old dam was removed from the creek and has since allowed the water to return to its natural state, increased recreational opportunities, and decreased maintenance costs, all while using a unique funding source. The history of Milham Park began in 1845, when John Milham arrived in Kalamazoo from New York State and purchased a tract of wild land 2.5 miles south of Kalamazoo. The property was left in its natural state until 1918, when park development began, and the City Commission authorized a summer bus line to shuttle parkgoers to and from Kalamazoo. In 1929, the City Commission voted to acquire an additional 80-acre tract of land adjoining Milham Park to the east. This property joined an existing 9-hole golf course, extending it to an 18-hole golf course that's still in existence today. Roadways were built and swings, slides, and playground equipment were installed. Over the years, park improvement have included a campground, ice rink, swimming pool, and even a zoo. A reptilium was established in 1935 under the direction of 16-year-old Larry Tesloff, a herpetologist, lecturer, game hunter, and animal show owner, who later became widely known as Jungle Larry. In 1930, the Southeastern Community Club erected a 2-story log cabin in Milham Park and presented it to the city of Kalamazoo to commemorate the centennial of the establishment of Kalamazoo County. Constructed of logs and stones from each pioneer farm in the county, the cabin served as a museum for county relics. During the height of the Great Depression, the city of Kalamazoo provided jobs to upgrade and develop local parks and to make river and stream improvements. The Portage Creek Dam, the stonework, terraces, zoo enclosures, a pavilion, multiple bridges, and a bathhouse were built using WPA money. For over a century, Milham Park has remained a popular and a pleasant recreation spot close to the heart of the city of Kalamazoo.
Patrick, it is lovely to meet you. Tell me a bit about who you are and what you do.
I'm Patrick McVeary. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of Kalamazoo, and our department oversees 34 parks in the city and also a bunch of youth after-school programming buildings, and then we have our kick pool downtown.
Yeah, so talk with me a bit about what makes this park here in Milham Park so special.
So Milham Park has been in the city for quite some time. It was originally established back in the 1800s by John Milham. He migrated from New York and established this as his homestead. Once it became a park for the city, it's been kind of not only a city park, but also a regional destination for people traveling throughout the area. It's a large property with a lot of different features, both natural and man-made, like play elements and picnic shelters, and it's one of the gems that the city has in the Parks Department.
Wonderful. For it to start as a homestead and really a farm and turn into all of this, it shows the beauty of nature, right?
It does, yeah. It's an amazing property, and you wouldn't think that a property like this exists within a city limit. It's kind of a retreat from people downtown and surrounding area to get into nature and also be close to water and have access to partake in some of the actual activities that the park provides.
Absolutely. Kalamazoo seems more of an urban setting top of mind. But then, like you said, you have hidden gems like this. What do parks like this, specifically Milham Park, mean to community members?
It's quite a desire and a draw for community members to be able to come into a park like Milham, be able to experience nature, and it's almost like you're transformed outside of the city into a wooded area that has so much to offer. It's a great resource for the community to be able to access Portage Creek, to partake in fishing, and also just be surrounded by lush trees, and an environment that's not conducive to a city atmosphere.
Wonderful. And over the years, there's certainly been improvements made to the park. You're actually doing some projects now. Can you tell me about them?
Absolutely. So the main project that we did last summer was the restoration of Portage Creek that runs through Milham Park and the removal of the dam that's been in place for quite many years. To try and bring Portage Creek back to its original shape and actually be able to help the creek thrive, not only from a fishery standpoint, but also the local wildlife and surrounding riparian area as well.
And it sounds like it's going to be breaking down a lot of access barriers when it comes to people in Kalamazoo who might want to fish nearby and they finally have a place to do it right in their own backyard.
Exactly, yeah. We do have a few other parks in the system that people are able to actually fish at. Milham Park is so special in that it gives the users and the park goers an opportunity to get close to the water, where a few of the other ones you don't get that without a boat or a canoe. Milham Park gives you the opportunity to actually stand close to the water to be able to see the fish. And it's a park that's situated within the city where it's kind of accessible as far as close to downtown and the surrounding neighborhoods around Milham, where people can actually walk to the park and partake in the activities that we have, and it's not too hard to get to.
Gotcha. And I know that you mentioned there's places to fish kind of in other parks around the area. I did hear through the grapevine that we might get some trout here at Milham Park.
That's correct, yes. In the grant working process that we had, and we worked with the DNR, one of the main aspects was to try and bring the Portage Creek back to thrive for a fishery. And in working with Matt, Diana, and some of the local DNR officials, we decided that if we can bring the Portage Creek back with the removal of the dam and decrease the water temperature here in the creek, we could try and actually use this as a trout stocking area for the Department of Natural Resources. And with the project being so successful and completed, that's actually what we're working towards in the spring of 2023, is to actually have this as a trout stocking area for the DNR.
There's two important elements here. There's the nature element and the habitat that we're seeing, also the community space and the access points that you are reaching out for.
Right.
Can you talk with me a bit about how Kalamazoo is really making access and equitable access to the outdoors a priority?
Yes, so one of the things that we do throughout our work with the DNR is we have to create master plans every 5 years to be eligible not only to apply for grant funding, to try and update community input on what they'd like to see within the parks and the master planning process. One thing that we found in the last master planning process is people wanted to be able to access parks within a 5-minute walk or a 10-minute bike ride from where they live or where they work. Taking that into account, we've actually been able to target parks that might not have had actual park improvements in the last few years, to try and take those and actually improve those, not only with possible DNR grant funding, but also to address what the community would like to see as far as a park improvement in specific parks. So access is a very important part of not only our department, but also the city as a whole, to be able to have community be able to access not only parks, but different amenities that the city offers within a close proximity to where they work and where they live.
Yeah, and I think we hear that word access a lot, but when we talk about access to the outdoors, there's that component of why. You know, why is it so important that here in an urban setting like Kalamazoo, residents have an option to enjoy the great outdoors?
Yeah, access is been a big thing the last few years, not only with the pandemic and people not being able to get outside, but also the opportunity for some of the youth in the city that don't have the ability to get to a park or a green space. One thing that we try and do within our department is, through our summer programs and our after-school offerings, is to be able to take kids to a park or to a specific green spot that kids haven't had exposure to try and educate them, and also maybe develop an interest on their own to be able to utilize parks or green spaces in their daily lives. So being able to give them that access to not only the park, but maybe reach some of the barriers that they've had as far as transportation or timing to be able to do that, is a very important part of our department. It's only going to benefit not only the community, but also our state in the long run.
A park located in the city provides more access for all to to experience nature and outdoor recreation. Unfortunately, traditional park use was mainly enjoyed by a small, predominantly white community. For white Americans, the ability to visit a park with little to no concern is a privilege that's rarely considered. Conversely, for people of color, racial discrimination created serious barriers for park use. Parks weren't always considered safe for diverse populations. The fear of encountering a racist crime could significantly deter someone from participating in outdoor activities. Yet, people of color stood at the forefront of national park development. In 1838, Stephen Bishop, a guide and explorer at Mammoth Cave National Park, is credited as discovering many popular cave areas, such as Mammoth Dome and ruins of Karnak. In 1903, Charles Young was the first African-American superintendent of a national park. Young and his Buffalo Soldiers managed the lands of Sequoia and General Grant National Park, now named Kings Canyon National Park in Northern California. And in 1970, Lancelot Jones was instrumental in making Biscayne Bay National Park in the northern Florida Keys what it is today. Many people of color have greatly influenced our national parks. Unfortunately, these narratives have long been obscured or ignored by history.
So Pete, it's great to meet you, and you are an angler and outdoor enthusiast here in Kalamazoo. You look like you're ready for a fishing trip.
Yes, I'm always ready for a fishing trip.
How long have you been fishing for?
Oh my God, at least 27, 28 years now.
Wow, and was that something that started like as a family hobby?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been fishing for 27 years right now. And went out with my uncles and my grandpa, and those are just memories I've always had. And I just took a liking to it from the very beginning.
Is that something you and your family do to this day?
Absolutely. I mean, we have a freezer full of fish right now. I mean, that's pretty much like how we kind of cut loose, relax, and just enjoy being around each other.
And do you do that here in Kalamazoo? Because I always think of that as more of an urban setting versus rural.
Yeah, no, we actually have to drive up to Cadillac to go salmon fishing or Allegheny to go steelhead fishing. So it's a pretty much a trek, about 45 minutes to an hour, up to a couple of hours every time we want to go.
So as an outdoor enthusiast and a fisherman yourself, how excited were you when you found out that you were going to have an opportunity to fish right in your own backyard?
I could not really believe it. I'm like, I can't believe this place is so close to my home. It's literally 15 minutes from my home. Wow. And we can come here and enjoy the peace and quiet and still have that same enjoyment of fishing as a family. But to discover that they had a place that was literally 15 minutes from my house, we were super excited about the opportunity.
What is the farthest you've ever driven to go fishing?
About 4 hours.
So you're not going to miss those long drives?
Oh, no. Going up to the UP to try to do fishing up there or going across to Cadillac, that's a long drive. You know, you spend so much time driving and very little time fishing, it's just not really worth it. This opportunity is going to really give our family a really cool chance at just coming really right after work, right after school, come in the afternoons, come in the evening, come and sit down, have a chat and fish and get to know each other. That's what family is about.
Who do you think will catch the most fish?
Of course, my nephew and probably my wife. Yeah.
She outdoes you a little bit on it?
Yeah, she does. It's embarrassing it is to say, but she does.
Wonderful. And so when we talk about access to resources, another big topic right now is equitable access to the outdoors, specifically for Black and Brown community members. As a person of color living in Kalamazoo, how do you think this will impact the community? I
think it's going to have a very paramount impact on the community because the number one problem that we have is just access, like the ease of access. And by being so close to a predominantly Black and Brown environment, community, it's going to give them an access that they never really had before. And I think there's going to be a lot of families that's really going to enjoy this new unique experience. I think most people don't really understand how many Black and Brown people actually enjoy fishing. That's who I was always around as growing up. Now, as I got older, I got a chance to see other communities actually enjoying the same adventure, the same experiences that I did. But I think that most people don't really know how many of us actually enjoy this opportunity, not just fishing, but hunting as well. So I think that when this place really gets popping, you're going to see a lot of Black and Brown families around here having a lot of fun.
Yeah. Is there a sense of comfortability as well, knowing that something's right in your backyard? If you're trying something new, you don't have to go to unfamiliar territories to explore that?
Absolutely. And just look at the setting here. I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, they have playgrounds for kids that are not really that into fishing, but mom and dad can still sit here and enjoy themselves and still, you know, watch their kids and see what their kids are doing. It's perfectly set for a family environment.
And you said not as many people know that certain communities might be into fishing. I didn't know that so many people were into trout, but
Yes.
I've heard that that's a really big deal, that trout is going to be coming and they're going to be putting more a population of trout into the river.
Oh my God, I'm super excited about that because coming from Texas, we didn't have access to this fish. When I came up to the Midwest, I discovered this whole new world of fishing, and they're super tasty. So that's first off. And they're so fun to catch, and it's really a challenge. And so with the trout that's coming in here, you cannot understand how excited I am about just getting my hands on one of them here.
So you said trout was really tasty. I've got to ask, what's your favorite way to prepare it?
Oh my God, literally just butterfly 'em and breadcrumbs and butter and just saute it a little bit. It doesn't take long, and it's the sweetest meat you'll ever have. It's so tasty.
Diverse activities for diverse communities. What are you looking forward to the most?
Just spending time here and making memories. That's the most unique thing that I'm actually looking forward to.
With the removal of the dam in Milham Park in 2021, Portage Creek has been returning to its natural state of a free-flowing body of water. Some remnants can still be seen today of the structure, but the creek's health has improved, which will allow for trout to live and breed more easily.
Matt, thank you so much for being out here with me today. You are the lead biologist on this project. Can you talk to me a bit about the science behind what we're doing here?
Sure. We get involved in fish and dam removals quite often. Main reason is because dams create barriers to fish migration. So anytime there's a dam in place, any kind of fish movement between upstream and downstream is limited. We get involved from a fisheries aspect because we manage the water bodies. And so we manage the streams, lakes, rivers, wetlands in Michigan for mostly biota in partnership with Eagle. So when a city's looking at a dam removal, they often come to us to kind of understand what the logistics behind it is. You know, what kind of money is available for it, what kind of benefit can we expect from it. And so we work really heavily as a partner with those types of organizations on these kinds of removals.
Yeah, and when you talk about the benefits, can I ask why this location was chosen then for dam removal?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is Portage Creek, which is a trout stream. We manage it as a type 1 trout stream, which means there's some natural reproduction in the system. Dams are especially tough on trout because trout do migrate as part of their life history. So if they're trying to move upstream to get to spawning grounds or feeding or habitat, things like that, the dam's an immediate barrier for that. So, another thing that dams do is, oftentimes we think about how they block the water, but they also block the sediment moving in the system. Rivers are sediment conveyor belts. And so dirt, sediment, sand, things like that are constantly being washed down. The dam blocks that and it builds up sediment through time. You get these dark bottom impoundments, slow moving water, it heats the water up, and hot water reduces the quality for trout, which require cold water to survive.
And so you talk about obviously the, I would say, issues that can come with dams. When we talk about the benefits, what can we expect when we kind of return this to its natural flow?
Sure, yeah. So when you take a dam out, the sediment migration kind of starts going back to normal. That means you don't get that kind of dark sediment you can kind of picture in a pond that gets built up through time. That'll start flowing down naturally. You'll start seeing sediment clear out, and it kind of converts back down to that river bottom that used to be there before the dam was in place, where there's rocks and cobbles, which are real important for invertebrate survival. They're real important for habitat for spawning. Trout spawn on gravel beds, so that gravel bed's covered by sediment. From a dam impacting that downstream movement, they're not going to have reproductive potential that they would normally have. So now you have spawning habitat, you have feeding habitat restored, you've got a mixing of water which oxygenates the water, causes riffle. You can kind of think of when you go to a river and you see it flowing over the rocks and kind of pouring, stirring. That's great for getting oxygen in the water. It's great for kind of keeping it cold and moving. That's kind of habitat trout need. So when you see these ponds behind dams, it actually can be really counterproductive to trout production.
So, and all of these great activities and great resources, they do come with a price tag. So I got to know, where does that funding come from? Is that from tax dollars or something outside?
Sure. No, most of the money comes from hunt and fishing license sales. We estimate that in the last few years, between $64 and $66 million a year is coming from fishing and hunting licenses. It goes to us managing the streams and managing the hunting, and it goes into projects like this.
So when you have conservation efforts like this and you're providing these resources, I mean, that has to have a big economic impact here in the state.
Sure, yeah. Hunting and fishing supports over 170,000 jobs, and that leads to basically an $11 billion industry annually in the state of Michigan.
Wow, so that $11 billion, is that from things like when tourists come and they say, hey, I want to fish here in Milham Park, so that means I'm also going to maybe frequent some bars and restaurants, mom and pop shops, even in a more urban setting like downtown?
Yep, absolutely. They come to town, they spend money on gas, fishing equipment, things like that, and it all benefits the economy of Michigan.
All a cycle.
Yep.
What impact does that have on, I guess, overall well-being of community members?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of health benefits to being outdoors and around things like trout fisheries. There's a lot of opportunity to introduce people to new things. And so if you have a trout fishery in your backyard, you're much more likely to start to engage in that activity, where if it's at a distance or there's some kind of barrier to entry, you don't see as many people getting into those activities. So, we think of this one being right down here in Kalamazoo and Portage City, being so close, that there's a lot of benefit to recruitment when it comes to getting people into trout fishing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks beautiful. I think you were saying earlier, it's definitely a different vibe than when you first came out here, when you were removing the dam.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Dam removals can be messy. I mean, obviously you're breaking old infrastructure, and so, that old infrastructure is oftentimes an eyesore. It's dangerous. It can cause failures and floods, and so, there's a lot of benefit. And the other thing is it costs cities or dam owners a lot of money to maintain. So one of the benefits of taking them out is this river is going to be free-flowing, cost-free, for some time without any real maintenance requirements. So now the city of Kalamazoo has this new fisheries resource, but they also lost that kind of cost that they're going to keep incurring through time otherwise.
Wonderful. Well, it looks great out here. Thank you so much for giving me your expertise on this project.
Yeah, no problem.
The conservation, management, and improvement of Michigan's natural resources doesn't end here. Revenue generated from every hunting and fishing license supports vital work performed by Michigan's Department of Natural Resources. This work impacts communities across the state, so our forests, water, and wildlife can be here for everyone to enjoy.